Hi geometry students, my name is Mrs. Stresh. I'm one of the geometry teachers at Alton High School, and this video is for the guided notes for Lesson 1 Coordinate Plane Review. It should be the first white piece of paper in your geometry workbook you were given at registration after the purple page. I believe it's page 1. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's page 1. So flip to that. I'm going to be going through the notes and I'm going to be writing down things just as I would if I was teaching you in the class in the front of the room. However, if I write faster than you, the nice thing about this, you can pause it clearly at any moment so that you can catch up, or you can write a few notes, or maybe I say something but I don't write it down. You could always write it down on your own, but you can pause and replay me as many times as you need, which is really nice because you don't have that option in regular class instruction as much. So follow along, page 1, get a piece of paper, get a pencil out, and page 1. So we're talking about the coordinate plane. We're just reviewing it. It should not be new to any of you guys. And we're going to start with what an ordered pair is. So the ordered pair are just the values that show the position on the graph. We put the x value first. And remember, the x one is the one that goes horizontal. Excuse me. I always tell my classes x goes side to side like a xylophone. So when we have ordered pair, it's first x, then y. It always goes alphabetical order. And the y, the second value, is the vertical up and down value. Y goes up and down like a yo-yo. So the first number you see is how far left to right. Second number, up and down. Xylophone, yo-yo. So then a point is just a location. If we tell you the ordered pair, we are telling you its location. And it's always represented by a dot on a picture, and when you name it, you're going to use a single capital letter, which seems unnecessary to write out, but in geometry, naming things is really important. So we'll be naming lines, we'll name angles, and the number and types of letters you use really does matter. So we're going to use a capital letter. But first I'm going to label my coordinate grid, and the first thing I want to have on here is the x-axis. And just like I said before, the x-axis, the x-coordinates go side to side like a xylophone. The y-coordinates, the y-axis, go up and down like a yo-yo. Where they intersect is the origin, so I'm going to put a dot here, and I'm going to label, where would be the best place for that? I'm going to label it on this side. That's the origin. 0, 0. So you haven't moved left or right, you haven't moved up or down. And then you just chopped this place into 4 sections, 4 quadrants. When we name them, we start in the upper right where everything's positive. So this is quadrant 1. Actually, I'm not going to put it there. I'm going to kind of put it up in the white space so I don't interrupt any of the ordered pairs we're going to do in here in a second. So quadrant 1 is the top right, and then we move counterclockwise, which means I'm going to stay on the top side of things, but I'm going to go to the left. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3. So then this is quadrant 4, where your x coordinate is positive, your y coordinate is negative. Here, they're both positive. Here, you're moving left and then up. And in quadrant 3, everything is negative. We do use Roman numerals for that. If you were ever to tell us an answer and you just put the number 4 for quadrant 4, that would be fine. But just so you know, that's why we have the I's in here for Roman numerals. So if I ask you to graph point A, I'm telling you its location. The coordinates are 2, 3, which remember tells you go up, xylophone first, left or right first. It's a positive number, so we go right 2. 3 is a positive number, we're going to go up 3. So if I go right 2 and up 3, we can see that we are here in quadrant 1. So I'm going to put a letter A here. But for point B, the x-coordinate is negative, so it's going to take us left first. The y-coordinate is still positive, so I'm still going up. This one is in quadrant 2. So left 4, up 6, we got point B. They're both negative in point C, so we're going left first and then down. So -3, -1, point C is here. And then point D is different because of the 0. But remember, you're always saying left or right first. So this is just saying, don't go left or right. but do go ahead and go up 6. Point D is on the y-axis. And then point E goes right and then down because it's positive and then negative. Therefore, it's in the 4th quadrant. We have another 0 on point F, but remember, it's the second number. I just messed that up. The second number is always the up or the down, and I'm saying don't go up or down. So we are going to go left 2, and then we're not going to go up or down. So it's kind of in the way of the origin. So I'll just kind of squeeze it in here. There's point F. So we've got these labeled. Not only do we need to remember how to graph, but it is important to remember how to find slope. So I'm going to change the color here. So the slope is the slantedness. It's the description of that. We denote it with the letter M. And we always say it's the change in y over change in x. So that's one way to write it. Or you could write that we will subtract our y coordinates and put it over our x coordinates subtracted. The confusing thing about that is the order that you subtract matters. Whatever order I choose for the top, I'm going to choose for the bottom, which means I could choose to do y1 minus y2, but then I'd have to do x1 minus x2. So I could do the 2's first, or I could do the 2's last, as long as I'm consistent with what I choose. So I'm going to show you that for points B and F. So I'm going to let point B, since it is labeled first, remember it's always x and y, I'm going to put the 1's on those x's and y's. Point F, still x's and y's, but they're the second coordinates, so I'm going to stick the 2's on this guy. So then I'm going to choose this formula here. I'm going to take y2, the second y coordinate, which is 0, and I'm going to subtract y1, the first y coordinate, so 6. That's going to be my numerator. The denominator will have x2 minus x1, negative 2 minus negative 4. Keeping in mind you have to have the minus sign no matter the fact that there's still a minus 4 here. So we get the double negative. So it's probably been a while since you added and subtracted negative numbers, but 0 minus 6 is negative 6. Negative 2 minus negative 4, negative 2 plus 4 gives us a positive 2. Which means when I go ahead and simplify that, that has a slope of negative 3. So the formula is really nice if you don't have it graphed for you, but if it is graphed, you should be able to confirm the slope, because if I connect B to F, as I look left to right, as I drew that left to right on my picture, you can see that it is going downhill, which fits with the fact that we said it's a negative slope. And if slope is rise over run, the change in y over the change in x, and we put it as a fraction, we can see that I'd rise negative 3, I'd go down 3 and over 1. And if I do that again, down 3 and over 1, you can see that, yes, they are on the line with the same slope. And because of that counting nature, I could have done that in the first place to find the slope, which I know a lot of people prefer when it's graphed. So I'm going to do that for the remaining ones. So if I talk about A and F, so F I just used earlier, A is here. I want to look at the rise over the run. I always start on the leftmost point. You don't have to, but I always do. So I'm going to start at F. And I see that I need to go up to get to the place where A is. And I count the number of boxes I went up. So there's 1 box, 2 boxes, 3 boxes, 3 units up. And then I'm going to run. So I'm here right now. I need to run 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes over. So I'm just counting the rise and the run. Move some of this out of the way. So if I rise 3 and run 4, they are both up and right. Those are positive directions. The slope would be 3/4. Now, if, however, you're like, but it said A first, I want to start at A. Knock yourself out, start at A. You're going to end up going down 1, 2, 3 boxes. Down is a negative direction, and then you'd be here. Then you would have to go over 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes, but I was going left, which is a negative direction. And when you would put the rise of negative 3 over negative 4, you would still get positive 3/4 for your slope, because the points connecting F to A, if you look left to right, is in an increasing direction. Get all that out of my way. So then points B and D, let's look at that. This is a little weirder to count rise over run, because if you start here and go to here, you don't need to rise. There's no uphill portion of this. The rise is nothing. But you do need to run 1, 2, 3, 4 units, which means 0 divided by 4. You are allowed to divide 0 by 4. It'd just be 0. If you talk how slanted the floor in your living room is, it's probably not going uphill or downhill by any discernible amount. So it's got a slope of 0. However, if you talk about how slanted your wall is, how steep your wall is, that's kind of weird to describe because it's going straight up and down. This does have a rise. And I went downward, so I'm going to put the rise as -4. But it doesn't have a run. And when you don't have a run, you can't really have a number describing the steepness. When you divide by 0, you have an undefined value. So vertical lines, remember, have an undefined slope. So just a bit of review on slope along with the coordinates, and then just some basic questions going over identifying these things. So we've got another picture, another list of points. If I want the x-coordinate of f, remember x is the coordinate that comes first. It means how far left or right did you have to move to get to f? And if you look, it went from the origin 1, 2, 3, 4 units left. Sorry. So 4 units left. And then if I was here, it would have gone 1, 2, 3, 4 units up. So up is positive, left is negative. The x-coordinate is always the first value you list in an ordered pair. So its x-coordinate is -4. If I want the y-coordinate of D, I want to know how high up or down it has moved. If D is down here, it has gone down 3 units. It didn't go left or right, so it would have 0 for the x-coordinate, but it has -3 for the y-coordinate. What points are located on the x-axis? The x-axis is labeled for us, so we can see that there are 2 points sitting on the x-axis. I see point B and point C, so I'm going to list those 2 capital letters. I'm going to put a comma between them because later on in the semester, BC will mean something different, and I don't mean that thing, so I'm just listing 2 separate capital letters. What point has the same x-coordinate as H? Well, H is here. The x-coordinate is how far left or right it moved. It moved 2 to the right. It also happened to have moved 4 down, but 2 right is the important thing here. What other points also have been shifted 2 to the right? So if you look, I'm basically saying who's in line with point H here? And that would be point A. Point A moved 2 to the right. It also just moved 3 up. Now if I want the y-coordinate as H, y-coordinate is -4. It moved 4 down. The only other point that has gone 4 down on this graph is point G. G is also 4 to the left, but it is also 4 down too. And the points with an x-coordinate of 2, those are points that have been moved to the right too. We kind of just answered that on number 7 here. The ones that moved to the right too were H and A. So again, I'm going to list these 2 coordinates, putting a comma between them. What points have a y-coordinate of -4? Again, this is kind of redundant. Every year I mean to change these notes, and clearly I never do. We already listed them. -4 here, -4 here. So G and H are those 2. So then, a y-coordinate of 0. 0 tends to mess with people's heads sometimes. It basically means you didn't move in that direction. And if y is an up or down direction, I want ones that never moved up, never moved down. You can move left or right till you're blue in the face, but don't go up or down, which means they're the 2 points that were on the x-axis earlier. So then, what coordinates do F and G have in common? So if we look for F, I already labeled it here, -4, 4. G is here, -4, -4. Now they have 4s all over the place, but they both start with the -4. So that -4 is the first coordinate, therefore I'm going to write the x-coordinate. It's not saying what number do they have in common, it's wanting which coordinate. So likewise, what coordinate do E and D have in common? So if I find E here and D here, I haven't written out E's coordinates at the moment, but if you look, they're in line vertically. So both moved up or down, but neither one moved left or right. They both have 0 as an x coordinate and some other number for a y coordinate. Therefore, they still have an x coordinate in common. It's possible to have a y coordinate in common. I just didn't ask that number or that question. G and H had the y in common. And that's the end of these notes. Like I said, just a brief overview. We're going to be using coordinates a lot when we start this first unit. So we wanted to make sure that you refreshed yourself on all these terminologies and different things. And just remembered that you at some point in your life knew how to graph a point because you're going to need it again. So good luck with the practice that goes with it. Hopefully viewing this video went fine for you too. Talk to your teachers, keep the communication open, and make sure you are figuring out stuff that you need support on and communicating that. But good luck.